Who was the man behind the iconic howl that electrified millions and defined an era? From the shadowy studios of Mexico to the heart of American culture, Wolfman Jack was more than just a DJ. He was a cultural icon and a symbol of the counterculture movement. His gravelly voice, his infectious energy, and his unique blend of rock and roll, country and blues captivated the airwaves and enticed listeners with his mysterious, otherworldly essence. Born Robert Weston Smith on January 21, 1938 in Brooklyn, New York, the Wolfman started his musical journey early in life. His father, Anson Weston Smith, was an Episcopal Sunday school teacher, and also a writer, editor, and executive vice president of Financial World, while his mother, Rosamond Small, managed the home and provided a loving environment for young Robert and his younger sister. His parents divorced when Robert was young, and this led to him becoming a bit unruly. To give him something to occupy his mind and keep him out of trouble, his father gifted him a large transoceanic radio. This began his love of music, especially R&B, and his fascination with the disc jockeys who spun those classic records. Robert was enamored with legendary greats like Douglas "Jocko" Henderson of Philadelphia, New York's Dr. Jive, Tommy Smalls, the Moondog from Cleveland, Alan Freed, and Nashville's John R. Richburg, who later became his mentor. To raise money so he could attend the National Academy of Broadcasting in Washington, D.C., Robert took any work he could find. From selling encyclopedias to going door to door, peddling the popular Fuller brushes of the era, nothing could stop his soon-to-be meteoric rise in the music world. After graduating from NAB in 1960, Smith took a position at WYOU in Newport News, Virginia, which gave him not only a change in scenery, but also in character. Known as Daddy Jules in the beginning, he then shifted his persona to Roger Gordon and music in good taste. When the station format changed to more soothing, easy-listening music, it was during this time that he met wife Lucy Lou Lamb, marrying on July 1, 1960. And together they started their family with the addition of daughter Joy Renee and son Todd Weston. In 1962, Smith was offered a position as station manager and morning DJ at KCIJ 1050 in Shreveport, Louisiana. It was here that Wolfman Jack was born. Taking inspiration from his mentor Alan Freed's persona, the Moondog, which Freed chose after watching the well-known New York street musician of the same name, and legendary bluesman Howlin' Wolf, Smith's naturally raspy voice combined with his wolf-like howl was instantly a hit with listeners. With a deep affinity for horror movies, his Wildman looks, and playing a wolfman while chasing his nephews around the yard at home, the first name of his persona came easy. He then took the name Jack from the familiar hipster lingo of the 1950s, like, "Hit the road, Jack." In 1963, the Wolfman got his first big break when Inter-American Averting's Raymond Vasquez hired him and sent him to XER-FM, a station located in Mexico, across the border from Del Rio, Texas. With the studio's high-powered blaster signal reaching across most of the U.S., listeners could drive from New York to Los Angeles and never lose the station, broadcasting at over 150,000 watts, 3 times stronger than the U.S. limit. The signal allowed listeners in Europe and even parts of the Soviet Union to become familiar with the on-air shenanigans of Wolfman Jack. Fans tuned in daily to his tagline, "Who's this on the Wolfman telephone?" and to hear his stories about him and his wolfwoman, Lou. As is common with border stations, XERF made money by renting time to various sponsors. From Pentecostal preachers, psychics, and weight loss pills, to dog food companies, rosebush salesmen, and even a pill called Florex to enhance a person's sex drive. The Wolfman would create a tagline for each one, and his fans loved it all. Soon the signal was picked up in Hollywood, California as the mighty 1090, boasting 50,000 watts of Boss Soul power. The station is still broadcasting today under the call sign XEPRSAM from an office of a small strip mall on 3rd Avenue in Chula Vista, California, just 10 minutes from the Tijuana-San Diego border crossing. 8 months later, Wolfman set off to Minneapolis to head up KUXL, splitting his time as he was recording his shows, and sending the tapes back to XERF to also be broadcast there. It didn't last long though, as the Wolfman missed the excitement he felt while at XERB. Going out on a limb, he rented an office on Sunset Boulevard in Los Angeles in January of 1966, and sent his recorded shows across the border to Mexico, where they were beamed all over the United States. In 1971, the Wolfman took a hard hit when the Mexican government was forced to ban the Pentecostal preachers from buying ad time on the radio, under pressure from the Roman Catholic Church. This led to an 80% loss of revenue from the station, leaving the Wolfman no choice but to move on, once again. Still taking a huge pay loss, the Wolfman's next stop was KDAY 1580 in Los Angeles. By now his popularity was growing, and the Wolfman used his newfound fame to make up for his pay cut, taking his old tapes from XERB and reworking them. He was able to sell them to radio stations all over the country. As the older ones became dated, they were picked up by numerous oldies stations. At the height of his career, the Wolfman was heard as far away as the Wild Coast, Transky, on Capital Radio 604, and on more than 2,000 radio stations in 53 countries. He was also aired on the Armed Forces Radio from 1970 to 1986, becoming one of the first rock and roll syndicated programs. 1973 was a huge year for the Wolfman. His first on-screen role in American Graffiti as a disc jockey was heavily promoted by WNBC station manager Don Kelly. The Wolfman accepted a handsome deal with Kelly to move to the station in New York, going head-to-head with major competitor WABC's cousin Bruce Morrow. This massive advertising campaign focused on propelling ratings over and above WABC, proclaiming that Cousin Brucey's days are numbered, the Wolfman is on the prowl, and handing out thousands of small tombstone-shaped paperweights that said, "Cousin Brucey is going to be buried by Wolfman Jack." This partnership only lasted a year as WNBC hired Cousin Brucey, prompting the Wolfman to concentrate on his syndicated radio show. After moving back to California, he spent 3 years, from 1984 to 1987, there before doing a brief stint at Xerox 80, which was another border blaster station leased by a group of Dallas investors. The Wolfman was also hosting a TV show at the same time at the popular Little Darling's Rock and Roll Palace, later renamed Wolfman Jack's Rock and Roll Palace. After this, the Wolfman relocated to Belvidere, North Carolina to be closer to his extended family. Recordings of these old shows were reintroduced into syndication a decade after his untimely death and are still available to local stations through Talent Farm as of mid-2020. Starting out, the Wolfman experimented with various hairstyles and makeup, unsure of what his alter ego should look like. During his sporadic public appearances, and while performing as a master of ceremonies at clubs for Los Angeles rock bands, he sported a goatee, combed his hair straight forward, and used dark makeup to give himself more of an ethnic look. Other times he mixed up, wearing a huge afro wig and sported large sunglasses. His ever-changing appearance kept fans guessing as to what his ethnicity really was. It wasn't until his role in the 1969 film, A Session with the Committee, a montage of various skits by the comedy troupe The Committee, that fans got their first look at the Wolfman's normal appearance. Venturing into music, The Wolfman started in Minneapolis at KUXL in 1965 with George Garrett, who helped him record the album Boogie with the Wolfman by Wolfman Jack and the Wolfpack on the Bread label. This kept him busy being responsible for the engineering and producing of the album and also assembling his band. He went on to also release Wolfman Jack in 1972 and Through the Ages in 1973, both on the Wooden Nickel label. In 1973, he appeared as himself again in George Lucas's second feature film, More American Graffiti. His fraction of a point division of the profits from the film, combined with the extreme financial success of the movie, provided him with a regular income for the rest of his life. The Wolfman also provided voiceovers for the 1979 sequel, More American Graffiti. 1978 saw him in the made-for-TV movie Dead Man's Curve playing Bob, the Jackal Smith, based on the musical careers of Jan Berry and Dean Torrance of Jan and Dean fame. His numerous TV appearances included popular TV shows such as The Odd Couple, What's Happening, Hollywood Squares, The New Adventures of Wonder Woman, Emergency and Married with Children, of which the latter was his final on-screen performance. He was also a regular announcer and occasional host of NBC's The Midnight Special from 1973 to 1981. 1976 saw him host his own variety series, The Wolfman Jack Show, which was produced in Canada by CBC Television and syndicated throughout radio stations in the US. He also starred as himself on the short-lived ABC animated series, Wolfrock TV, and voiced the chief of the Rama Lama tribe on the TV special, Garfield in Paradise in 1986. And fans of the movie Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band may remember a cameo of the Wolfman in the 1978 musical comedy. He also appeared in the 1988 movie Mortuary Academy. Back in the studio, he furnished his voice in the Guess Who's Clap for the Wolfman, which went on to be a top 10 single, and on Flash Cadillac and the Continental Kids, The Hilarious House of Frightenstein, as the Wolfman werewolf disc jockey in 1976. Inspired by the classic Wolfman movies, he appeared as himself in a cover for the song Hit the Road Jack by Canadian band The Stampeders, and on Todd Rundgren's 1975 album Something Anything, where he provided a voiceover shout talking over Rundgren's introduction of the tribute song, Wolfman Jack. He also had a hit in 1972 with I Ain't Never Seen, which topped the Billboard singles charts. The Wolfman was also a regular host at Knott's Berry Farm's Halloween Haunt, at their Scary Farm event every year from 1975 to 1980 for Halloween. These performances hold the record of the most successful special event of any theme park in the country, often being sold out. Wolfman's fans across the pond in the UK regularly tuned into Radio Caroline North and Radio Caroline South, a pirate radio station network, to listen to the Wolfman's daily show. But due to the new law, the Marine and Broadcasting Offences Act of 1967, and the sinking of the ship, Dan Kelly, Wolman's business partner and personal manager, attempted to move the newly formed Radio Caroline to the West Coast, but unfortunately the deal fell apart. But not before the Wolfman laid down on track a series of recorded daily morning shows that never ended up airing. Eventually a new ship was found and production resumed from 1983 to 1990. The tapes of these recordings are to this day highly prized by collectors of Wolfman Jack's work. Wolfman Jack wrote his autobiography Have Mercy, Confessions of the Original Rock and Roll Animal in 1995, and gave his final syndicated radio broadcast at Planet Hollywood in Washington, D.C., on Friday, June 30, 1995. On July 1, 1995, Wolfman Jack passed away from a heart attack at his home in Belvidere, North Carolina, soon after finishing his weekly broadcast. He was 57 years old. He was laid to rest at the Smith family estate cemetery in Belvedere, North Carolina. Wolfman Jack was inducted into the Radio Hall of Fame in 1996. Wolfman Jack has been cited as inspiring numerous musicians, including Jim Morrison's The Wasp, on Texas radio and The Big Beat. And he was also mentioned on Sugarloaf's 1974 hit single, Don't Call Us, We'll Call You, and the song Ramble on Rose, by the Grateful Dead. A parody of the Wolfman appears in the skit Wolfman Stressed Out, on the 1989 album Stunts, Blunts and Hip Hop by Diamond D. And Bob Dylan invokes Wolfman Jack numerous times in his 2020 song Murder Most Foul. And if you haven't already seen it, check out 2022's satirical biopic movie, Weird, the Al Yankovic story, where Jack Black gives a stellar portrayal as the Wolfman, the arch-enemy of Dr. Demento, played by Rainn Wilson. Older fans may also remember an animatronic band called the Wolfpack 5 that appeared at the first Showbiz Pizza location from 1978 to 1980. Wolfman Jack's voice was used in the American version of the beat 'em up arcade video game DJ Boy in 1989 as the announcer Demon Kogue. The estate of Wolfman Jack released a hip-hop single that featured clips of his vocals in 2012, and clips of the Wolfman Jack radio program were used in the 2016 Rob Zombie film, 31. Wolfman Jack left a legacy that permeates music, film, and radio still today, and as he was often quoted saying, "If you do right, everything will come out right. We are put on this earth to have a good time. This makes other people feel good. And the cycle continues." Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell to catch all of our new videos, chronicling who's who in the celebrity afterlife realm. Until next time, take care and I'll see you again soon.